Welcome back for another book talk. Today we are talking about this one. So this is Full Moon. I've wanted to call it Full Moon the entire time. So this is the second book in the Dresden Files. So if you missed the first book, honestly I don't know that you need to read the first one before jumping into this one. I mean, it doesn't really explain some of the characters and their relationships, but otherwise you don't necessarily need to read these in order, because this story definitely does not continue from the previous. It just picks up in a new adventure, kind of like a Nancy Drew book, which is how I've described these before, and I will continue to describe them as such because that's kind of how these feel. Like, obviously there's a little more chaos than a Nancy Drew book, but like, really so far they've been pretty standalone stories and just slight things kind of continue. So a brief summary of this book is basically our main character, Harry. He is going off to deal with another case from Murphy. There's been some random killings and he needs to figure out what's going on with it. Last time it was more like the demon things that he was dealing with. This time he's got werewolves. So one of the big things that I've read a lot in reviews for this book and that other people have said is that this is like one of the hardest, if not the hardest of the series to get through, and I can see why. This one requires so much attention to like the random names that he's given these werewolf types. You have 5 that you've got to keep track of. This isn't a very big book, to be honest. And so it feels a little chaotic to be keeping track of so many different types and keeping track of which ones are the bad guys, which ones aren't, these ones do this, these ones get their powers this way, etc. and so forth. It was just like a bit much. I feel like 2 to 3 would have been more appropriate. It was just a little much of the werewolves. And the pacing of this book was pretty weird. It was super slow for like a majority of the book. And then it felt too fast towards the middle and end. And I don't want to give too many spoilers in this part of the video, but the like last chunk of story really didn't feel like it was believable. And it kept ripping me from the story because it was like, this is not how it would work. And of course you suspend your belief to some degree when you're reading, but this was like, really? Because it was just awful. It just never ended. And it was like, oh my god. And every time it happened, it would rip me out of the book and then I'd have to like force myself back in. And it was just getting really old really fast. So overall, this book isn't terrible. I will be continuing with the next one at least. I think at this point I'm probably going to finish reading the series. I don't know that I would buy it. Like, I'm really glad the library has these, because like that way I don't have to go and spend money on these books. And so long as they have them in the library system, I will continue to read these books because it's not bad, and it's not that it's bad writing. I know some people really have an uppity problem with Harry, the main character. If you don't like that type of a person, you're not gonna love these books. Personally, I don't really mind. I think it's fine. I've met plenty of people with that mindset. Like, it doesn't really faze me. And again, I can appreciate that, like, you don't always need to love your character. I don't think Harry is supposed to be a lovable character. I think he's just supposed to be an entertaining character to follow along with. He's not really set out to be the hero in, like, a traditional sense. So I don't really hold him to a very high standard, but that's one of the biggest complaints I've seen, which I'm like, eh. And, like, you could argue it's the author's POV, but I feel like it's really the character. I don't know. I haven't read anything else from the author, so maybe that is just like a common theme. I don't know. I don't really mind that too much. Harry's just kind of an idiot most of the time because he's just whatever, but it's still entertaining to read. And I've heard that it gets better, so I'm hoping this was just kind of the most meh of the series and then it'll progressively get better. Because honestly, sometimes it does take a little bit to get into a story, to get into like making this world and figuring out how you want it to go and to get your reader's attention. I don't know if this is his first book or if it's just, you know, like this series is his first or not. But if that's the case, like, I would cut some more slack because it does sometimes take a little bit of time. And also, if you don't have like the greatest editors, sometimes it just takes a little bit to get your writing style down. So anyways, let's move on to the spoiler section of this book. So if you haven't read this, I will see you all later because we're going to talk about stuff that happens in here. So the biggest thing with this book, I mentioned that earlier, the werewolves. It was a lot. I got really bored with that super fast, and it was like, there's just too many. And he gave them all really weird names, which is whatever, and maybe they're like names found other places, but it was just a lot. And the fact that it was like, okay, we have a street gang, then you have the, what was his name, like McFinn or something like that, who's like the different kind, he's the cursed kind, but then you also have his fiance, who at the end we find out is like a wolf that shapeshifted into a human, which, no offense, but like, how would that go down? Like, it's probably not exactly easy for the average person to find this magic, to be able to transform into a wolf. How was a wolf gonna find the magic to transform into a human? And how would they know how to interact as a human? It brought up too many questions that were not answered. And then we also have like other random stuff that just didn't really fit. Like, how, like, it just felt too weird to have the FBI getting into magic. Where's the White Council if they're supposed to be around and like managing everything? They suck. Like, they're not doing their job. And so it just felt really weird. And like, what exactly is going on in like Never Never? Because like, it's so much. And like, and like the dude being like, well, I gotta kill you now because you came onto my turf. And it's like, you have a shop. People are gonna go there. What? Like, I didn't love that whole, it was just so much. The biggest thing that really ripped me from this book was at the like last chunk of the book where Harry is just constantly getting injured. It ripped me from the story. There's no way. The first time, maybe you could like run off that adrenaline thing, but you can't keep doing that. And all of his injuries, it was so much, so unbelievable. And as somebody who has nearly bled to death multiple times, I can guarantee you Harry is not going to be doing 99% of the stuff he claims he can do with, like, no blood. The amount of injury he's got, the amount of bloodlust he's gone through, absolutely no way. And it would be different if he had, like, even spaced these out of, like, attacks per month. But no, this is happening, like, repeatedly over a very short span of time, and it just, like, ripped me from the story. I feel like it was raising the ante too fast, and it just, I just hated it. And it was like, seriously, oh no, he's hurt again. What do you want to bet? He's gonna be fine. And, like, it was cool that they, like, took his magic away, but then he could still use it, and it was like, this is stupid. This is really stupid. I did like that Murphy ended up saving him. Again, it's one of those where it's like, it's kind of cool, didn't see that exactly coming, and like the fact that, and it doesn't make sense. Why would, like, this tension between her and him just doesn't really make sense. And her being like, well, I can't trust you, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it just got old. It got really old, and was kind of unbelievable for me. And like, I don't know. I know they, like, authors include this, not just in here. I remember in Charmed, they had that as, like, an arc for a while. And it was, I think it was kind of even recurring for a minute with Andy, I think his name was. But, like, it just gets old fast. And it's like, why? Just why? And, like, if he's proven that he's, like, how would you not expect to have a secret world where the, like, wizards have a different set of codes and laws that they have to follow versus you, and as, like, anybody in, like, law enforcement, you should know that, like, if you can't say a lot of stuff, and he's set in a different world than yours, would he not have those same rules? Really? I mean, it doesn't take much to connect those dots. So it was just, like, little stuff like that that just constantly was just like, ugh. And then he's injured, all this shit's going down, but then he decides that he needs to get laid. Like, I'm sorry. I know guys like to do it, but that really felt completely unnecessary, did not fit anywhere in what's going on. Like, how's he supposed to do it? And first of all, not get hurt further, because you're gonna have body pressure. It was just like, really, really, we needed to have that scene in this book. Really. It was stupid. The timing of it was even worse, Because again, it rips me out of the story completely because he's super injured. What idiot is gonna be like, oh, you're like basically on your deathbed? Well, I need to get laid. No, that was just, I hated it. And it was like, what are you doing? This makes no sense. So I can see why this is not everyone's favorite book. I'm hoping it gets better. Because really the author does a good job writing. Just some of this stuff, it's like, I hope it gets better. I've heard it gets better. I have the next one already rented from the library, so I hope it's gonna get good. We'll have to wait and see, but I think it will. So anyways, that is going to be my thoughts for Fool Moon, not Full Moon, Fool Moon. And I would love to hear yours. Did you have similar qualms? Because minus him possibly being a little bit sexist, other than that argument, I'm curious about like too many werewolves, pacing of the story, the like unbelievability of Harry being so injured all the time. I'm more curious on that front. So I'd love to hear from you guys or something else in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Starting soon, I will be posting every single day, so make sure to subscribe so that you never miss an upload from me. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon.